Hi, moms and dads. This is Dr. Scott Haggerty from Late Family Chiropractic, and today I want to go and take a few minutes of your time to talk about something that many of you may be dealing with, and that is a child that is struggling with constipation. I know this firsthand as a parent. We've been there with our little girl, which is one of the reasons why we moved into pediatric chiropractic care because it was one of her struggles. Now, as we are in this for a number of years, 9+ years now, we have helped hundreds of kids with moderate to severe constipation issues to overcome these. And so, what we'd like to do today is talk to you about what you have not been told, what is actually causing constipation in many kids, what you should have been shown but have not been. And so today what we want to do is we want to talk about the agenda. Today first we want to talk about the problem. I want to share with you a really amazing story of some kids overcoming constipation issues, talk about the science, talk about the vagus nerve, and then talk about what you need to do to help your child. So constipation is a really common issue, moms and dads. 25 to 30% of kids struggle with this on an ongoing basis, and it can be something that is so life-altering, from mild constipation where a child might struggle with going to the bathroom to the more severe cases, which would be what's called encopresis, which is the stool can become so impacted, so large that a child can't pass it because it's so dehydrated, and it actually might cause the child to have leakage because the stool has become so large and impassable that any stool the child makes beyond that actually leaks out into their underwear, causing some kids to have to wear things like pull-ups, or younger kids to continuously wear diapers long past when they should have been potty trained. So the struggles with this are huge. The pain, the discomfort, it's miserable for children going through these. Besides the fact that older kids, it can be incredibly embarrassing. It's such a major issue from a quality of life perspective for everybody. And if you're a parent who's been dealing with this for a long time, you've probably tried everything. You've been down the road of trying Miralax, and you've probably tried things like, you know, Dulcolax, and you've probably tried stool softeners. You've tried about a million things. The problem is that Miralax is not a long-term solution, even though it's what is the default in the pediatric community. You've probably been told a million different things about trying supplements. The problem is that in most cases, what we have found is that the root cause is never even discussed. And this is what is really problematic, moms and dads, because the root cause in the vast majority of these cases is neurological. And we'll expand upon this, but I want you to understand that starting at the top, the brain controls the gastrointestinal system. There is a built-in neurological control mechanism. It runs through two different channels. One is straight direct channels from the brain to the spinal cord. And then the second channel is the autonomic nervous system, which is this balance point between parasympathetic, which controls rest, digest, growth, development, healing, motility, executive function, sensory, emotional control, you name it. The autonomics directly regulate GI and bowel functions. So this is where, if you've not heard this story before, stick, because you're going to want to hear this all the way through to the end. Let me share with you a story of our buddy Jaden, who was a lifetime constipation patient when we met him. His mom, just the most amazing woman, her husband, just the most amazing dad, really tried everything. Jaden had been to every specialist under the sun because he had dealt with such severe chronic constipation. They tried everything. He had been on Miralax. He had done a million other different types of natural remedies. They've been on the med route. They've been on the supplement route. They tried the diet route. They tried everything. And it had been such a major struggle that mom didn't know where else to turn. And it was just ironically, she came across us. I believe it was from some social posting, kind of similar to this. Brought her son in a few years ago, and within a matter of months, he had completely overcome his constipation issues. And when I say completely overcome it, like no longer needed to take any type of laxatives, making normal bowel movements on a daily basis. Didn't happen all at once, and we'll get to how that process works. But what I want you to understand is that the root cause was always neurological, but it had never been assessed in one setting. Had not any person that they'd met with, all of the top specialists from the Cleveland Clinic, university hospitals, and so on, not one person had ever talked about the autonomics that regulate this, the master control centers. And parents, if this is you, even well-intentioned specialists, you should be frustrated because these are things that are basic fundamental control systems that everybody should know about. So let's dive into this. If you've gone down these roads before, right, and this is what we hear all the time. Most parents that we talk to have tried all of this stuff. They've tried doing all of the, the diet stuff. They've tried high fiber diets. They've eliminated sugars. They've, gotten rid of casein and dairy. They've put the kids on a million supplements. They've got them on probiotics. They've tried magnesium. They've had them on psyllium husk fibers. They've tried stool softeners. Many times they've tried enemas. Many times they've gone down the laxative route without any results. And come in saying, why are none of these things helping to change things? Well, because all of these things are going to have limited ability to do their job if the master control system can't get them to execute the work they're supposed to do. Because when you look at the bigger picture, right, there is this neurological root that is in the vast majority of cases driving these things. Now, in chiropractic, we use a couple of nerdy words. One is called subluxation and the other is called dysautonomia. What you need to know is that a subluxation is essentially a pattern of interference between the brain and the body. At some point or multiple points along the journey from the brain down to the bowel and the bowel to the brain, there are interference points where the signals are not going back and forth correctly. There's lots of different ways that this can be built, and that's why data helps us to understand this. But what this interference pattern creates as well is it also activates the sympathetic fight or flight system. And what we have found across the board in the vast majority of cases that we work with is that kids come in stuck in a persistent, nonstop state of fight or flight or sympathetic tone. What ends up happening is that this alters a number of different body processes, one of those being motility. So if a child is in a state of fight or flight, it is also a really strong correlation. They're probably going to have issues with the GI. Because if you think about the sympathetic nervous system and its job, when the nervous system is doing what it should and something happens that is a danger or a stress to us, right? It's like the old caveman down by the watering hole analogy that caveman's down by the watering hole, saber-toothed tiger jumps out to attack caveman. Caveman has two simple choices. I either fight or I flee. And in that moment, a logical caveman is going to flee. Well, when caveman flees, he is not concerned about getting sick. He is not concerned about stopping over for a porta potty. He's not trying to think about logic and read War and Peace. He's simply thinking about survival. Now, neurologically, what that means is that the brain is going to shunt blood only into critical functions, which is the heart, the lungs, the muscles, the adrenal glands, and everything else that is not going to save the caveman's life is going to be saved for later when the nervous system can reboot. Now, if you're a parent who's got a child who is dealing with constipation, there are also a number of common things that are associated because a persistent fight or flight state within the nervous system can trigger other types of symptoms to evolve if it's there long enough. So there can be common associations with things like focus and attention issues, commonly called ADD and ADHD. It is not uncommon, and it's extremely strongly correlated to children who are on the spectrum with ASD. Many children who deal with sensory processing issues commonly will have issues with motility. Kids who have a lot of issues with anxiety commonly will have issues with motility because the fight or flight system, when it's on and it's not being opposed by the parasympathetics like it should, will become inhibitory or will turn down the ability of the GI to work like it's supposed to. Hopefully this is making sense so far. Let's dive deeper. Now, the key to this very simply is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the nerve that regulates every aspect of motility plus a bunch of other functions. And if you've never heard of the vagus, let me explain this to you. The vagus nerve stimulates motility, number one. Number two, it calms the brain and the body. It's the great organizer. It organizes sensory input. It helps the brain to be able to focus, organize, think, calm itself. It helps with keeping the executive function centers of the brain on. So I can pay attention in school. So I can remember the things that I'm taught. So I can learn social normals. So I can learn things like proper spacing so I don't invade people's personal space. Or I learn context. My brain develops the way that it should and on schedule. The vagus nerve from a developmental perspective is crucial. But from a maintenance perspective, it's also crucial because the vagus nerve is responsible for helping to keep the brain doing its general job of developing the brain so that we can function successfully in life, regulating our immune system, eating, digesting, and so on. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably saying, okay, so what do I do? Well, in our practice, what we do is we do very specific neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic adjustments. Now, why does this matter? When you adjust the spine, Even though the spine is where we do the work, what we do is we take these interference points and we eliminate them. We open up the flood of information between the brain and the body, and what happens as a result is it stimulates the vagus nerve, it lowers the sympathetic tone, it improves brain body communication, it also improves brain and executive function. What you also see is you also see improved motility, you see a healthier gut, oftentimes a lot less gas, a lot less distension. What ends up happening in the long term is we take advantage of this thing that's called neuroplasticity, which means that we retrain the central nervous system so that it learns how to perform this essential function of what is technically called defecation, but pooping on a regular schedule. Because what ends up happening, parents, is that the longer a child is constipated, stretch receptors inside of the bowel, they become stretched to a point where they don't recognize when the bowel is technically full. So when we work to keep the bowel emptying on a regular basis, eventually those stretch receptors reset. The brain is now getting stronger and stronger connection through the spinal cord back to the brain. Now the brain recognizes when the bowel is full and it triggers the child to say, hey, I've got to go to the bathroom. And in turn, what happens as time progresses with the care plan, you actually fix the problem. Instead of band-aiding it, instead of masking it, the child's nervous system learns how to function the way that it was supposed to through this process. Now, do we sometimes use other things to help to support us along the way? Yes, because we're not going to say the other things don't matter. But if you don't get to the root cause, then you can't get to this point. So you have to address the root cause, address the nervous system side, and then you also support it using things like supplements and fibers and things like that, because those are all essential parts of health. But if the nervous system is the real underlying problem, you've got to fix that before any of the other things will be effective. So if you're a parent who's got a child with constipation, I'm saying, well, what the heck do we do now? Well, the next steps are actually pretty simple. Number one, you need more data. Because if what I'm saying is true, then the only way that you can get information about if what we're saying is going to be the case for your child, then you need data. And that comes through the Insight Neuroscan system. And it's a three examination, three assessments test that gives us a complete overview of the function and health of your child's central nervous system and its autonomic nervous system. We can see very clearly how well those messages are going back and forth between their brain and their body, if their autonomic nervous system is out of balance, and then it gives us a tool to both assess but also track progress as time progresses. Now, this is where it becomes really important because moms and dads, this data will help us to create a baseline, set targets, measure the objective targets, while at the same time, when we talk with you initially, we create subjective targets, which is how often is your child pooping? How bad are their symptoms? How are things changing over time as we progress? So we can have multiple different ways to monitor ongoing as we go through the course of a care plan. Now, if you're looking for more information, here's a couple of great resources for you. You can go to our website, elitefamilykairos.com, to get more information. There's also a great resource called pxdocs.com. So, full disclosure, we are not alone. We are part of a much larger organization, much larger initiative called the Pediatric Experience, where we are neurologically focused pediatric chiropractors, many of us who got into this because of our own children going through struggles. And this site is a resource site for you parents, where you can go and get articles and case studies and science information. You can see many, many, many other parents and kids who've been in the exact same place you are, so that all of this information here is for you as a parent, a resource site to learn what is really possible, what can be done to help your child so that they can get the kind of results that you desire for them. Because ultimately, moms and dads, everything that we do here, our goal is to give you the information, allow you to do the research, and then see if this is the right thing for your child. And then when you are ready, you reach out. We're here. We're here to help and support you, because we know that if you're to a point where you're looking for videos, you're looking for resources, you're watching these, it's because you're desperate. You're desperate to try and help your child because you're sick and tired of watching them struggle. I know, I was there, right? We did everything that we could to help our child for a long time before we knew this information, before we reached out to Dr. Tony Ebel, the founder of pxdocs.com, who's my mentor. I had him help me. I had to be humble and ask for help to say, I don't know what else to do. Please help me to help my child. And then he stepped in and he gave me guidance and counseling and training and resources and mentored me for now the last 9 years so that I can help her to overcome challenges that she was dealing with. Now, she lives a life without constipation, plus she was struggling with anxiety and emotional regulation issues, and all those things are gone. And we've got a pretty smooth quality of life right now where she lives a great life day to day. These struggles have not come back, but we've also consistently cared for her. And I want your child to have the same quality of life that my daughter does. So if this video resonates with you, take action, check out these websites. If there's somebody else that you know that would benefit this, please share it. Everything that we're doing here is for you guys. We want you to have this information. We want you to know what we know so you can get the results that we get. Okay? God bless you guys. Thank you much. Thank you so much for taking some time to watch this video today. I hope that you find it useful, and I look forward to seeing you guys in a future video. God bless you. Have a great day.